Hey therapists, it's Dr. Dan Wendler. I'm the founder of marketingfortherapists.org. I'm a clinical psychologist, and for 10 years, I've helped therapists like you grow their practices online. So today, I want to give some advice about a common problem that I see many therapists dealing with, which is negative reviews that might come in on Yelp or Google My Business or a similar platform. What do you do when somebody leaves a bad review for your therapy practice? Well, I want to start with a couple of things that you should not do. The first thing that you should not do is panic and overreact. A bad review is bad. It's definitely not pleasant and it can affect your business in some ways, but it's probably not going to be a do or die for your ability to attract clients. Most people expect a couple of negative reviews on the page of any business that they look at, especially if you've been around for a while. And so I wouldn't stress too much about it. You do want to respond to it, and I'll talk more in this video about how you can do that. But take a breath and try to maintain a little bit of perspective on it. It's a problem, but it's not a catastrophe. The second thing that you want to avoid doing is responding to that negative review in a way that incurs ethical or legal liability for you. Essentially, if you respond to a review and you say in the review something that makes it clear that that person was a client of yours, well, you've just committed a HIPAA violation, and that's a really big problem. And so if somebody says, oh, so-and-so was a terrible therapist and they did this, and you respond and you're like, no, that's not true at all. When you came in, I did this instead. Well, you've just acknowledged that that person is your client, and now you've opened yourself up to a lot more problems. So that's what you should not do. Well, what can you do when you get a bad review? Well, you can respond to that review, and in fact, you should, but you want to do that in a specific way. The thing that's important is to provide a boilerplate response that is very clear that you're not saying whether or not this person is a client of yours. So you might say something like, thank you for leaving this review. While I can't respond to reviews specifically because I don't want to, violate patient confidentiality and indicate whether somebody was or was not a patient of mine. What I can say is that, these are my standards, or if anybody has a complaint, they can always take it up with the board, or whatever else you might want to say that is generic that you can respond to any negative review with. I think it's a good idea to write one standardized response for all of your positive reviews, one standardized response for all of your negative reviews. And again, each of those responses, make sure that they would be perfectly applicable whether or not the person was actually a patient of yours. And it's good to maybe talk it over with a colleague, maybe a lawyer if you want to be really, really sure. But step one is to write a response that you can still, use, but that does not violate the patient's privacy in any way. The reason why it's important to do this is because, number one, Google and Yelp and those other platforms, they like to see you responding to reviews. And so if you respond to reviews, they're going to boost you in the algorithm. It's going to make them see that you are a more credible, responsible business. And number two, human visitors that are looking at your Yelp or your Google My Business or whatever other profile, they're going to see that review. They're going to see that you are on top of it, that you're responsive, and that's going to help them take that negative review kind of with a grain of salt. So that is the first piece of it. I will say that if you know the client that reached out that left a negative review, you might want to bring that up in therapy with them if you're still working on it. But of course, be careful not to make that a focus of therapy because that would be inappropriate. But if they're having an issue that is strong enough that they've left a negative review, well, then there's probably something in the therapeutic relationship that you want to address. So you can bring it up with them, and maybe if that issue gets resolved, maybe they'll decide to change the review on their own. But you cannot, when you're talking to them, ask them to do that. Okay, so once you have responded to the review, what else can you do to manage these negative reviews? Well, it's important to keep in mind that the more positive reviews that you have, the less that a negative review is going to impact how people see you or how your business is ranked. So you want to generate some positive reviews for your therapy practice. However, there's ethical considerations here as well. If you tell people to leave you a positive review, that can get you into a lot of trouble with the ethics board, because that's you doing undue influence. However, for whatever reason, the ethics boards seem to think that it is okay for you to just mention that you happen to have a Google My Business or Yelp profile. Certainly, you wouldn't want to mention that live to a client during a session. That would be inappropriate. But if you link to your Yelp on your website, if you put up a sticker in your office, if you include it maybe on some of your intake paperwork, just to say, hey, this is one of the platforms that I have. Just mentioning that it's there is perfectly permissible, and then it's up to the client themselves whether they want to leave a review or not. But if your clients like you, if you're doing good therapeutic work and they're aware and thinking that, hey, you have a profile, then I think that they're decently likely to leave you a review, especially over time. So that can be something to keep in mind, to just make it more prominent to your clients that you have a Google My Business or a Yelp, and hope that they will over time leave you some reviews. The final thing that you can do to try to address negative reviews or build in more positive reviews for yourself is to ask colleagues and referral sources for reviews, because you can't ask your patients for reviews. But if there's another therapist who knows your work and knows that you're really great, they could leave you a review. If there's a doctor's office that has referred some of their patients over to you and knows that you've done great work with them, well, they could leave you a review. It can't be fraudulent, right? Like, they need to be able to speak to your actual professional expertise. So, you can't ask your best friend to leave you a review unless they happen to be a therapist themselves. But if some of your colleagues are leaving you reviews, that can start to build up those 5-star reviews that can help your Google My Business or Yelp profile look really good. So those are the core strategies for dealing with negative reviews. Step 1, don't panic. Step 2, respond to the review, but in an anonymized way. And then step 3, get yourself some good reviews through mentioning to your clients that you have these profiles, but without any kind of pressure or asking for reviews. And then also encouraging your colleagues and your referral sources to leave you reviews. If you do that, I think you're going to put yourself on a trajectory where you can stress less about negative reviews, and you can be confident that your business is going to be represented well. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please like, subscribe. That's going to help me and my team put out more content, free content for therapists that'll help you grow your practice. And stick around for the next video. Thanks so much. Dr. Dan, signing off.